Hello, this is our presentation based off the micro publication we wrote from the research paper from the credible website Science Direct, titled The Impact of Microplastic Pollution on Coastal Ecosystems Using Comprehensive Beach Quality Indices.
My name is Piper Atkins, and I did the introduction. So I'm going to be talking about the biological question and hypothesis, as well as giving some background information. So microplastics are tiny plastic particles that are smaller than 5 millimeters that harm coastal habitats worldwide. They have been found in Asia, Europe, the Caribbean, Africa, Australia, and Brazil. Sources of microplastics include poor waste management, tourism, recreation, commercial fishing, and human activities. These plastics are transported by ocean currents, rivers, and wind, spreading widely in marine environments. The biological question asked by researchers in this experiment was, how do microplastics affect the quality and environmental status of beaches in the southern Shandong Peninsula of China? The hypothesis asked by the researchers was, how does the shape and size of microplastics and fibers make up the microplastics found on the beaches?
Hi, my name is Taylor Dalrymple, and I was responsible for the methods and assays section. This gives a big picture context for the experimental methods in order to collect data for the experiment. 13 different beaches from the Shandong Peninsula were used in the study to collect sediment samples from. Shandong is a highly polluted peninsula because it has recently faced a lot of economic growth via tourism. The researchers in the experiment used specific criteria in order to ensure the sediment samples were uniform. The microplastics were then filtered from the sediment samples, then separated, counted, and categorized based on environmental impact. 3 different environmental tests were employed by the researchers to see the abundance of microplastics in the various samples. The more microplastics present in a sample, the worse the environmental status of that area that it came from, which demands more intense restoration measures. And to the top right in the graph, you can see the images of the different beaches along the Shandong Peninsula where samples were collected from.
Hello, my name is Peter Garofolo, and I assessed the results section of this research paper. The biggest result collected was that of all 13 beaches, 97% of the total sediment samples collected contained fiber-shaped microplastics. The biggest contributors to this microplastic pollution was tourism, recreational activities, fishing, aquaculture, shipping and transport, and improper waste management. The graph above depicts the percentage of different colored microplastics found on each beach. The graph on the right shows sediment collected from 0.5 to 0.25 millimeters, and the graph on the right depicts sediment collected from 0.25 to 0.125 millimeters. Of the 97% of the total sediment samples containing fiber-shaped microplastics, they were assessed by 3 indices. The Microplastic Pollution Index ranked all 13 beaches as very high microplastic abundance. And then the second index used was the Environmental Status Index, which also ranked all 13 beaches as bad environmental status. And then the last index used was the Coefficient of Microplastic Impact, which also ranked all 13 beaches as extreme microplastic impact. The image below depicts the sampling site and the beach sediments and the identification of microplastics that were used in this experiment.
Hey, my name was Hunter Hatfield, and I was in charge of the interpretation section for our report. And I was tasked with interpreting the results and stating if the author interpreted the results correctly and whether we agreed or disagreed. We agree that the author correctly interpreted the results and that he was correct in his statement that microplastics pollution is an environmental issue in the studied beaches. We figured that microplastics, specifically fibers, damage beach quality, and these different fibers, black, red, and blue, can be seen in the picture to the right. The study also used equations such as the MPPI, the ESI, and the CMPI to confirm the significance of microplastic presence based on beach sediment grain size. These beach sediments are things such as sand and dirt. Beach quality assessment also helped to confirm pollution severity, labeling all of the studied beaches as in the red zone. We can see this on the chart to the right, as the MPPI was found to be very high in these beaches, and the ESI was found to be bad in these beaches, labeling all 13 of the studied beaches in this red zone. Another important part of the report was determining the source of microplastics and why beaches have been considered as a sink of microplastic accumulation. Things such as temperature, sea breeze, waves, tides, rainfall, wind, shipping, even geometry of the coastline, garbage dumping, and offshore aquaculture all have a significant role in the distribution of microplastics along the shore. Tourism and recreational activities can cause high amounts of tourist pollution, mainly from synthetic clothing and plastic waste. Fishing and aquaculture results in tons of plastic ropes, nets, fishing gears, and buoys in the water that contribute to the microplastics on the beach. Shipping and maritime transport were shown to release lots of plastics in the ocean through cargo handling, port maintenance, and waste disposal. One of the biggest factors to the release of microplastics was improper waste management. The study highlights how waste disposal system is inefficient and releases immense amounts of plastic waste in the marine environment.
My name is Piper Atkins, and I was also assigned to do the conclusions and future ideas of the paper. So I'm going to be talking about the major conclusions as well as future directions of the paper and how the humans should care about this idea. So a high number of microplastics were found on all beaches in the southern Shandong Peninsula. These beaches were classified as bad and in the red sector based on the Environmental Status Index, the ESI, and sector analysis approach. Fibers made up 97% of the microplastics, with 31% being black fibers. The findings are supported by the data and align with global trends in microplastic pollution. This could affect the public by microplastics entering the human body through airborne particles or potential skin contact. This could cause health concerns such as inflammation in the lungs, which is something I think we should all pay attention to. Future directions based on this experiment could lead researchers to do this experiment in other coastal areas or using chemical fingerprinting to trace the origins of these microplastics.
It is also important to note that in this micropublication report that our group relied on a bit of usage with AI in order to form our own interpretations of the paper. We hope by sharing this presentation, the research publication made a little more sense and was understood by an audience such as you all, and recognize the importance of pollution and microplastics on coastal ecosystems, such as in Wilmington.